The major storm in the Northeast is slowly winding down, depending on where you are, but we still have a large upper air low to deal with over the next couple of days. We're heading into the weekend. Monday is the solar eclipse. And this is the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast for this Thursday night, the 4th of April, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description of this live stream. Use the coupon code winter2324 because if you do, you will get
10% off.
Yes, indeed. And I was just going over to today, Joe. How many storms in a row have we had that have outperformed the models in one way or another? I mean, this one, I was told Christina Pedia messaged me uh, earlier today about the fact that uh, the winds on Long Island last night for hours must have been 25 to 35 sustained or even higher, and then gusting up to 60 or higher for 3, 4, 5 hours. Beach erosion on the North Shore, beach erosion on the South Shore. Um, just, it's not good. I mean, it's not good. And then the rainfall amounts, Central and South Jersey got, everybody seemed to get 2 to 3 inches for, if you go north, northern New Jersey, Long Island into Connecticut, up by you, over the, going back to Monday. South Jersey rainfall amounts were in the 3 to 4 inch range. They've already gotten their entire allotment of rain for the month of April. I mean, does this ever stop?
I don't know. It has something to do maybe with the Tonga underwater volcano putting how many billions of gallons of water vapor into the atmosphere, and I think that was Bill Kirk over at Weather Trends 360 who said this may be going on for the next 3 to 8 years.
Well, listen, every one of these outperforms. It's hard not to think that there's there's definitely something going on.
Well, if there is something, we haven't figured it out yet, and
No,
I think models
I,
haven't figured it out either.
yeah, certainly the Tonga undersea eruption. It, it's had I think it's had a big impact all the way around. Saw some interesting snow shots from up in the Adirondacks, some places getting over a foot, and also up in interior New England and up into interior Maine. Uh, just a lot of wind damage and sea damage also in eastern Massachusetts and on the Maine coast with big waves washing in for the umpteenth time because that's happened already a few times in the last couple of months. It's got to come. It's got to calm down at some. I mean, at some point, we're going to transition over to warmer weather stuff where we're not dealing with these deep upper lows. But you know, this is you brought it up last week. April tends to be probably the stormiest month of all the months.
I'm looking at some of the snow totals, and a place that I often, well, actually not specifically there, but just north of there. I used to go camping in the summertime, first on my own when I was still a teenager, and then later when I got married and had kids. Warrensburg, New York, 14 inches of snow in Warrensburg, and Ulster County, Pine Hill, 5 inches of snow. Scolari County, 7.5 inches. Middle Grove in Saratoga County, 8 inches of snow. Even Albany had picked up several inches of the white stuff during the day. The Albany International Airport, 2.6 inches as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, and it's just amazing, Joe. I mean,
Yeah,
this is the 4th of April. We had to wait until actually we didn't have to wait. This is the second storm in the last 3 weeks that has
correct.
that has dumped a tremendous amount of snow. And I'm looking here, Clinton County. Clinton is where I'm headed for the eclipse, up in Plattsburgh. Altona in Clinton County, New York, 17 inches. Schuyler Falls, 11. Saranac, 11. West Chazy, 7.5. Whiteface Mountain, 12 inches in Essex County. Paul Smiths. You imagine go to a county, Franklin County, and they have a town called Paul
Paul
Smiths,
Smiths.
5.5 inches. And Messina, New York, I used to forecast for Messina when I was working at a private weather service, 3 inches of snow. So it's just mind blowing. All of this snow that has hit again the second time around in the last 3 weeks.
And let's not forget Chuck Cardillo's on the chat board because he had 6 inches where he lives up 3,000 feet up in the Catskills.
Oh, I had
Uh,
snow, by the way. I woke up this morning and it was snowing enough to actually coat my deck, coat the roof, and also coat the grass. I was like they did a double take. I honestly didn't believe we would get even that much snow, but apparently overnight we did, and we also apparently lost power for. It might have been just a blink, or it might have been a short while, but it happened in the overnight hours while I was still asleep. Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with that.
Paul Roman bangs the tip jar. Thank you, Paul. Joe, he says at Joe Rayo, just watched your solar eclipse J&J show on the replay. Very well done and very educational. And that it was. And for those of you who haven't seen it, you can go to my go to my YouTube channel, go in the library, and it's there. Just look under Joe and Joe Weather Show and just go back a little bit. Uh, after we're done here, I'll see if I can you know, put it up someplace higher up so everybody can see it. Not sure how to do that, but I'll figure it out. Welcome everybody on the chat board tonight and everybody watching in the background on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast for this Thursday night, the 4th of April. We roll right along. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn your notifications on because uh, we just don't pop up here and there. We're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays are usually off days for us. However, if there's ever if ever a storm impacts on those days, we uh, we do some schedule juggling and we always let you know. And last but not least, if you like the show, hit the like button so Joe can ring the bell or
Yes.
bells when we get to 100 likes. So I guess we should just go ahead and get started because we still have warnings up to the north. Uh, the winter storm warnings continue in northeastern New York, as well as all of Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine, except now for one county in northern Maine that is under a winter weather advisory. Just the one. And then there are a couple of counties in northern New York that have winter weather advisories as well. But for everybody else, everything else is all the other advisories and warnings and all the rest of it, they're all down. So that's good. Uh, Elsewhere, because of the cold air that's coming in on the backside, it's being felt in the south, the Ohio Valley, and in the middle Mississippi Valley. We've got frost advisories up for much of Kentucky and central and southern Indiana, southwest Ohio, freeze warnings and freeze watches for Missouri, eastern Kansas, and northern Arkansas. Wind advisories are still up for me. It's been windy, but it hasn't really been off the wall here today. We also have freeze warnings up for the western part of North Carolina and into a couple of counties in northeast Georgia, including my county. And out in the west, a new storm coming in. It's mostly in the southwest. So we've got winter storm warnings for parts of northeastern California and northwest Nevada, advisories in the Sierra Nevadas, advisories up in northern Nevada, uh, lots of wind advisories and high wind watches for the rest of Nevada, southern California, much of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah. And winter storm watches up for a handful of counties in northeast Wyoming, as well as central Wyoming and in northwest Wyoming. But there are some counties in between those that we're not seeing anything as far as advisories or warnings are concerned. And we can take a look at the satellite loop tonight. This thing is still sprawling, and now it's about the upper low that's going to be coming through. So that's going to make things a little dicey, Joe, as far as trying to get weather conditions to improve because the air is cold and unstable. There were even some thunderstorms this evening in and around Chesapeake Bay from the effect of the upper low swinging eastward. And I think this is going to be a problem to get things to clear out. We may have to wait until, there probably will be some improvement on Saturday, but I think you're going to have to wait really till Sunday before you have a whole day where the weather's going to be decent.
It's yeah, it's going to be a while. Whenever you get one of these big sprawl, and what did you say yesterday that it was how many contour cutoff?
Oh, 12? 12.
12 contour cutoff. You don't see that very often, do you? When you get that kind of a cutoff, you know that everything is going to move very, very slowly, and improvement is going to be. Let's put it this way: from now right on through Saturday, we're going to be under the adverse influence of this system. It really doesn't look like until Sunday that we'll have not whole or full sunshine, but at least sunny to partly cloudy skies, and then finally on Monday, mainly sunny skies, which of course is very good because that's the day of the solar eclipse. It almost seems like that the weather gods, so to speak. I told this to a group earlier in the week. I said this is going to be a terrible week. We're going to have everything thrown at us: clouds, wind, rain, maybe even a little bit of snow. But it's all good because it's going to take its sweet time in getting out of here. But when it does finally get out of here, it will be time to see the eclipse of the sun. And I don't know what I would do if the eclipse of the sun was this week, because there was no way in the world we were going to see it. But I'm willing to put up with all of this at least until we get into finally a legitimate clearing trend, which will come beginning Sunday and carry over into early next week. Joe, not only that, the temperatures, they're going to be nice and mild. I mean, on Monday, I could see temperatures here getting up to around 63 degrees, which is close to not seasonably, but almost unseasonably mild temperatures. And Tuesday, too, will be probably in the mid 60s, around 65 here in the lower Hudson Valley. That is unseasonably mild for the first week of April. So it looks like pretty good. We will have paid our dues, so to speak, by the time we get into early next week.
Once you get out of these cold, this is basically a cold pattern with what we're dealing with. Once you get out of it, temperatures will reflexively bounce higher because of just the time of year and the sunshine. As long as you don't have a bad wind coming in from the east or from the south, you're gonna see those temperatures bounce up rather quickly. Chuck Cardillo, thanks for hitting the tip jar tonight. Always a pleasure to assist when it comes to weather information. Thank you. And you have cleaning to do with the 6 inches you got there. You sent a picture earlier to me. I'll see if I can bring it up a little later. And Robert Lobnicki, thank you for hitting the tip jar tonight. Super chat, most appreciated. All right, let's check out what's going on the radar because it's a mess in the Northeast. And if you look down Delaware Bay and in the Delmarva Peninsula, there are boxes offshore. Those are special marine warnings that are up, and there's also a couple of special marine warnings that go into Chesapeake Bay and into southeastern Virginia and in some of the inlets there. And earlier, as I said, I saw, in northern Chesapeake Bay, there was a special marine warning, and I think I even saw a severe thunderstorm warning for a county or two. I'm not 100% sure on that. But the radar, that's all reflecting the upper low at a time of year. The atmosphere is very, cold upper low like this with a strong April sun is going to develop, at the very least, probably low top thunderstorms. And that's what we're seeing today. Meanwhile, still snowing in upstate New York as the snow bands are rotating around the remnant coastal low, which is starting to weaken. And of course, you've got the upper low and the whole broad circulation. So all this stuff is pivoting back westward. So that's going to go on for a while longer, and that's why you've got those winter storm warnings up. And we've also got some patchy precipitation, probably some cold rain, maybe some wet snowflakes mixed in southern Indiana and western Kentucky, and some showers in West Virginia. The south is quiet, though. Radar's here nice and quiet. Then you go out west, where we've got activity in much of California, particularly over the Sierra Nevadas, where we're seeing some snow there and rain everywhere else, and Moisture moving up through northern Nevada and into Idaho. Some heavy stuff there in southwest Idaho and on up into Washington and Oregon. This is the next storm system that's coming into the west, which fortunately, even though it's going to be coming out east and going into the plains, it's not going to come straight east. It's actually going to get pulled up northwestward, and that's going to, that saves you for Monday, Joe, as far as the weather for the eclipse is concerned.
Right. Look at that big wide area of clear sky or dry conditions that covers most of the central plains, northern, central, and southern plain states. Unfortunately, for those areas that are in the path of the eclipse, such as in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, sadly, that area of moisture that you see, as you just mentioned, Joe, over Idaho and Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, that unfortunately is going to be shifting eastward slowly but surely and will probably be somewhere over those areas in the south central states at eclipse time. So, and in fact, I didn't get a chance to look at SPC. We will in just a moment or next few moments, but I didn't notice whether or not the forecast for Monday. Yesterday they had on day 6 the possibility for a 15% chance of severe weather in that area of the eclipse, and whether or not they've extended that now to day 5. I have no clue. I just saw that you brought up the
Uh,
SP.
yes, they actually have it for days 5 and 6.
Okay.
Um, but for tonight, we've got a marginal risk in Idaho and into western Montana. And actually, the general thunderstorms are the line is drawn across Long Island to northern New Jersey, back to northern Pennsylvania, swings through eastern Ohio, then cuts across West Virginia, northern Virginia to the Delmarva Peninsula. And as we showed you on the radar, some of that is playing out also for a small portion of down East Maine. There's general thunderstorm risk. Now, for Friday into Saturday, we don't have anything going on severe wise, just general thunderstorms out in the west, Southern California, Southern Idaho, Nevada, and then on up into northern Wyoming, into central Idaho, and into southern half of Montana. On day 3, this is Sunday into Monday morning. I'm sorry, this is Saturday into Sunday. We've got a marginal risk for Nebraska, much of Kansas into eastern Oklahoma. And then when we look at their long range, and we always say that when SPC puts it in the long range, uh, they they might mean business. So for Sunday into Monday, they've got predictability too low. Okay, but Monday they have a 15% risk in Northeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Arkansas, Southeast Oklahoma. So that's Eclipse Day. So the path of totality that runs through Texas and into Arkansas, you're going to have issues there. And on day 6, which is Tuesday into Wednesday, almost the same area, under a 15%. And 15% corresponds to a slight risk for severe weather. Now, the interesting thing about this, if you went by climatology, Joe, it's the Northeast that should be cloudy,
Oh
and
yeah.
and that part of the country should be, mostly clear.
It's a lot of my eclipse chasing buddies were commenting about that today, that in Canada, in places in Quebec, Canada, and New Brunswick, those were the last places that anybody was thinking about going for the eclipse, and yet those are going to be the places probably that are going to have the clearest and best views of the eclipse. And the funny thing is that the Canadians, you come into the United States and you'll find that places along the eclipse track are charging 3 and 4 times the normal rate for a hotel room, or the rental cars are hard to find. In Canada, everything is normal, and somebody commented said the Canadians obviously don't know how to price gouge like we Americans like to do. But I said it's just simply because they didn't expect anybody to be coming their way for the eclipse, because the weather always seems to be awful, but not this go around. A lot of people who put their money down for Texas are shaking their heads now and saying, "What did we do? How can this possibly have happened?" Because they're not looking all that great, but the places that look the least likely, based on climatology, look like are going to be the ones that are going to be the winners for Monday for seeing this celestial show.
Scenepedia on the chat board says my coworker today told me that a buoy in Long Island Sound measured like 110-mile-per-hour wind gust. Would you be able to check on that? I looked through the list that Upton put out. I think if they had a buoy that was that if we could verify that number, if that was actually correct, that it would have made that list. But I didn't see anything. But I'll reach out to La Goodman and see if he could confirm or deny, or possibly both. So I'll let you know. I'll send him a message and see what he says.
New,
Meanwhile, go
New
ahead,
Brunswick,
Ezra.
New Brunswick, Canada guy on the chat board says we are expecting an extra 20,000 people in town for the eclipse, and I would believe that. I would absolutely believe that. When I saw my very first eclipse in July of 1972, we went to the town of Capshat on the Gaspé Peninsula. And as I said before, Capshat is merely Mayberry, North Carolina, except everybody was talking French. 2,000 people populate Capshat, at least back then in 1972. 30,000 people descended upon the town for the solar eclipse. So, New Brunswick, Canada guy, get ready because absolutely, and especially since now it looks like you're sitting in the place or sitting in the region where the best possibility seems to be for seeing the eclipse weather-wise. I can tell you right now, a lot of people who are in not so great places will gravitate up your way to see the event on Monday.
Rock Roll just brings up a good point. He's on the chat board. He says, "This is good. This is one of the best spring ski opportunities in the White Mountains in at least a decade, plus the eclipse. It's going to be a madhouse." Yeah, that's right. I mean, this skiers are going to be flocking up to New England this weekend on top of everything else, and with the eclipse going on Monday, if they hang around for a third day, you know, well, they would have certainly have lucked out all the way around. Rainfall amounts. I have this is a 2 day, so uh, this is for tonight, starting in 3 minutes and ending Saturday night. Okay, so in that 2 day time frame, I don't know how much is going to be happening Saturday. It might not. It might be very little, but uh, between now and certainly through Friday and into Friday evening, we're seeing basically a few hundredths to a couple of tenths. The exception being up in Maine, where we've got another half to three-quarters of an inch of liquid, and across Vermont and New Hampshire, it could be another quarter to some isolated 1/2 inch amounts, and we'll throw in northeastern New York with that. Nothing across the south, from Virginia south to Florida and west across Texas, nothing. Uh, then you go up to the Central Plains, where you've got a tenth to a quarter, and then much of the west is a tenth to a quarter, except for the areas in blue that you see in parts of California, northern Nevada, Idaho, eastern Oregon, and Washington, where you see a half to three-quarters of an inch. And then if we just move it out to the whole 7 days, so this would take you to next Thursday night. We're looking at another half to three-quarters of an inch total, moving into the mid-Atlantic states and into southern New England. A large area of rain of several to maybe as much as 6 inches across the lower Mississippi Valley. And that extends, the inch and a half extends all the way into Georgia and on up into eastern Tennessee and back west into central Texas and into southeastern Oklahoma and central Arkansas. Also, three-quarters of an inch to an inch and a half from western Nebraska and western South Dakota, northwestward up into Idaho. Not a whole lot in the west, but showery rains will leave anywhere from a quarter of an inch to some areas as much as three-quarters of an inch up and down the state of California and on up into Washington and Oregon. And as far as snow is concerned, for the next 72 hours, so this actually takes us through Sunday night, but the bulk of this is tonight, tomorrow into tomorrow night, and maybe early Saturday up in northeastern New England. But high probabilities for at least an additional couple of inches in the Adirondacks in Vermont, central and northern New Hampshire, and much of Maine. If we take it out to 4 inches, You can see the higher probabilities again, mostly in Northeast New York, Northern Vermont, North Central New Hampshire, and then interior Maine, where there's high probabilities for another four. And if we put eight, we got a couple of pockets here of 50% probability in northeastern New York, and up in northern Maine, we have a high probability of as much as 80% or higher for an additional 8 inches. And let's look at the west. I'm going to go back to two here and just widen it out. So in the west, we've got a large area of the west. This is going to be one of these mountain snows, valley rains type of situations. So the Sierra Nevadas, the Cascades, the Wasatch, and then on up into the northern Rockies, high probabilities for at least two. If we change it to eight, we have those same areas showing 50% high or higher probabilities for at least 8 inches. All right, let's go to the pivotal weather map and talk about the eclipse. And the latest, now this is from the 12Z GFS and Shambles, Joe, which I've now switched to the 18Z and Shambles as far as cloud cover is concerned. So I will go tight over New York, and you could take a look at this. This is percent cloud cover at 2 p.m. Potsdam at 17%. Still showing that little dark spot there, Joe, where Plattsburgh would be. Burlington at 41%. Syracuse 42, 31% at Utica. For those of you who aren't traveling but watching it from uh, Albany, 20%, Poughkeepsie 28, New York City 33, Brentwood 17 on Long Island, 17 for Bridgeport, 15 for Waterbury, 7% for I don't know, I've never heard of Mansfield City, Connecticut. So let's just say East Hartford, and 10% for Springfield. But meanwhile, Rochester at 62%, Buffalo at 66, Jamestown at 58. You got to think, Joe, the folks that are there are now pointing their GPSs into northeastern New York.
Right. And on this chat board, Mike Peer is saying, why is it always that dark spot by Plattsburgh? Well, that is the Adirondacks up there. And what the GFS apparently is picking up on is convective cloud cover, clouds that will probably develop right after sunrise on Monday and then bubble up. And it would not be at all surprising if by eclipse time, by the time the moon begins to start covering the sun, that we could see scattered to even broken cloud cover over in and around the Plattsburgh area. Now you say to yourself, well, Joe, aren't you concerned about that? But again, if it indeed is convective cloud cover, and I do believe that's going to be the case, the eclipse will help. Because once the moon starts covering the sun and the amount of sunshine begins to diminish, the temperatures will start to drop. And as the temperatures start to drop, the convective clouds, which thrive on heat and sunshine, will begin to dissipate. And this has happened at other eclipses where within the matter of 1 hour, and the eclipse will be lasting 75 minutes from the first contact to totality. By the time totality comes, I'm hoping that we will have much less in the way of cloud cover, and hopefully there will not be a renegade puff of cloud or cumulus that'll be passing in front of the sun at the critical moment or at the critical time. But that's what you're seeing, not just there in upstate New York, northeastern New York, but notice also that there's a similar batch of clouds over in the state of Vermont, the Green Mountains, seeing the same type of pattern. So that's what's going to be the problem. The problem for the folks in the western part of New York State will be high clouds and mid-level clouds. The eclipse will do nothing for that. But in the areas around mountainous areas, in New York, in Vermont, and even a few little spots in Maine and in portions of New Hampshire, the eclipse could very well aid eclipse watchers by diminishing the clouds as the temperatures drop during the first half of the solar eclipse.
And for those of you who are still looking for solar eclipse glasses, on the lower left, there's like a little shopping tag there. If you click on it. I've got some solar glasses that you can order from Walmart, including a 5 pack, which of solar eclipse glasses, and we also have uh, from Visi Solar. These are solar eclipse glasses that are a little more fancy schmancy for those of you who want to make a statement with your glasses. And then, of course, for those of you who are really tech savvy and want to use your smart zone, we have the Visi Solar Eclipse uh, glasses where you could use your smartphone to watch the eclipse. And I think that one comes, Joe, with 15%. It's 15% off. So if you haven't picked them up and you want to order them, the links are there for your convenience. And I've got the New England map up, and you see those, like you said, those dark spots there in parts of New England. Rutland, Vermont, which is outside that totality area, is at 54%, but Burlington in it is at 41, and Presque Isle, Maine is at 10%. So if you were thinking that one day you wanted to go to Presque Isle, Maine, and just haven't found, a reason to go, um, here's your reason. Uh, Not only is it beautiful up there in northern Maine, but it'll probably be mostly clear. And we were mentioning about North Texas. So just check out, look at this, Joe, for North Texas. Dallas, 91% cloud cover. Plano, Texas, 95. Harris, 95. Texarkana, 96. Tyler, 97. And it just occurred to me, okay, that being that the Dallas metro area was going to be in the middle of this, I bet you dollars to donuts that a lot of TV stations and networks uh, made their bed by putting reservations to go to Dallas to view this.
Oh, no question. No question about it. Well, they're smart. They will have placed cameras all along the eclipse track, and they may not be successful until they get up into eastern New York and New England, but they may come one after another after another. Now, there is a thing on this page, Joe, that they talk about uh, thick clouds or low clouds. Is that one of the options?
Uh, Cloud thickness. Uh,
Cloud thickness.
I'll
So
bring
now,
that up.
are these clouds in Dallas and Texas or whatever? How thick are they? Uh,
Dallas, 35%. It says the approximate percentage of possible solar radiation blocked. Uh, and this is an average from the past two runs. So 35% of the solar radiation will be blocked in Dallas, 42% in Plano, Texas, uh, 46% in Paris, Texas, 58% in Texarkana. If we look up, let's go, I'll bring New York back up so you can take a look, and then we'll look at New England. Uh, so interesting that, Syracuse, 88%, I'm sorry, 8% of percentage of blockage of solar radiation. So that says that even with whatever clouds are there, that most of the sun will be able to get through.
yes,
Watertown, 7%, Burlington, 15%, um, Buffalo, 23%, Rochester, 15%. So that's not terrible. And in New England, we can look here. Burlington, there's the 15, and there's no other numbers for the other places, but I assume that they're not really all that high, if at all, because most of this area up here in northern Maine is probably going to be clear, other than those dark spots that you see.
Now, do you have do I have sharing capabilities?
Um, you will momentarily, as soon as I get my mouse to behave itself. Uh, you do now.
Okay, I came across a film, and it's dated. Admittedly, I'm going to say right off the bat, and it's not as dated as the when I did the talk a couple of weeks ago, and I showed a 1931 movie with Will Rogers. Um, that it's not that old. It goes back to 1972. In 1972, there was a cruise out of New York on board a cruise line that doesn't exist anymore. But there was an eclipse out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and they decided to dedicate this cruise to the eclipse. and about 800 people on board this cruise. Many of them families, men, women, children, all there to try to see a total eclipse of the sun, which was going to last just over 1 minute out in the ocean. By the way, the one that's coming up on Monday in some places in New England and New York State will last upwards to 3.5 minutes. But this was one that was going to last just over a minute from a cruise ship. And let me see if I can pull this up here. Yeah, let me get that, and let me because I want you to hear this too. All right. Okay, and I'm going to go like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to show, obviously, the whole movie was like 55 minutes. But there's like a 3 or 4 minute spot in here where everybody's looking up, the eclipse is beginning and gradually progressing toward totality. And I only show this because this pretty much describes the flavor of the excitement, the buildup to totality. This I guess spells it out the best as to why this is such an amazing and exciting event. And you'll see everybody either looking with their special glasses or projecting the image of the sun on using binoculars or telescopes or whatever. But it's a really interesting film. Let's see now. I'm going to have to let me see if I can zoom in. Share the screen here. All right, there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to enlarge this. And I'm going to move my microphone over here. And I'm going to have to find, let me just scroll to the spot where I'm looking for. Okay, so this is Eclipse Day. Everybody's waiting for the start of the eclipse. We progress down through the eclipse, right through totality, and again with some dramatic music to heighten the thing. But you really don't even need the music. Just watch and see the reaction of people as the eclipse occurs.
The eclipse was frozen above us, like a phenomenal photograph pasted on the dome of the sky. How much alien stimulation can a mind process in just a little over a minute? You might have been waiting so intently for the first diamond ring that you missed seeing the shadow bands a number of passengers reported. Or you might have glanced away from the brilliant diamond ring and missed the elusive Bailey's beads as the last of the sun's limbs slipped behind the mountains of the moon. The corona might have so hypnotized you that your eyes did not stray far enough to show you the winter star Procyon or the planet Mercury. You might have missed a great deal if you were among those searching within the orbit of Mercury for undiscovered objects. But how worth it if you found a comet or a new planet? No one saw it all. We had to compare notes with other observers to piece together a chronicle of that sensational minute. A slow photographic exposure could show all but the subtle streamers of the outer corona. A fast one could capture prominences, explosions of gas many times the size of the Earth that were arrayed along an upper limb of the sun. So much of it could not be photographed, and yet everyone knew that with each successive eclipse, photographic technology had advanced, and this time more could be recorded than last time. But the cold wind, the gentle rocking of the ship, the sounds, the shouts, the companionship were forever outside the province of photography. Time was not standing still. Now it seemed as if a minute had been not stretched, but lost out of time. After the spectacular instant of the third contact diamond ring, it was over.
Well, I hope the film gave you a good
Music was
idea.
the music was priceless.
The music, by the way, was Alexander Glaznov's The Seasons, which was the perfect music to use as the background for a total eclipse of the sun. So,
Well, let's hope that Alex is still not under copyright. Ms. Blue Ocean, thank you for hitting super chat tonight. Most appreciated. And anyway, I just put up the 5-pack for the solar eclipse glasses. Again, all of that as at
did you like
Walmart.
Did you like the dog? Did you catch sight of the dog with the glasses?
Yeah, I
They'll fit.
saw.
It's one size fits all, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have a dog, you can even give it on the dog.
Oh, too funny. All right, let's get to the GFS overall and see what's going on in the longer term. Hopefully we don't get another one of these type systems. Although, excuse me, they do tend to run in threes sometimes. So that low rotates around in Maine, gradually weakens, sinks southward, but it's still just offshore on Saturday, and there is some instability, rain and snow shower activity. Southeastern New England seeing some potential rain showers there during the day on Saturday, but maybe from say western Long Island westward, um, not shower the shower risk will be low if at all. Meanwhile, you see the system in the west that's coming in. That low goes into Colorado, pretty deep low in the 980s. Uh, Starts to move northwestward into Nebraska, and makes really very little eastward progress. And then on Monday, it goes up into Iowa and then pulls up into Minnesota and Wisconsin as a dying storm. So we're not going to see that move all the way across to the East Coast. And just to note, that high pressure from east of Lake Huron is nose down the eastern seaboard. So that should keep things hopefully A-OK for the eclipse. And then models keep keying on some kind of low in the Gulf that and moisture from the Gulf coming out for Tuesday and Wednesday. And notice some showers start to move in uh, during Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. There's sort of some lead moisture that comes out, and then more of a low that comes out toward the end of the week. It's got a low running up the east side of the Appalachians and into southern New England by the time we get to Saturday. Doesn't look well. I mean, it does produce a decent amount of rain for a couple of periods, but that's at least a week away. Okay, so
Yep.
that's good. And then that goes out, and it looks like it might get warm for a couple of days. Then another cold front, more rain. This is now the 17th. So if you're looking for a completely dry pattern, uh, not doesn't seem to be happening here.
Yeah. God, it's if we can put together, if we could string together like 3 or 4 consecutive dry days, that's like that's that would be amazing. It seems like and for much of the winter, it seemed like we get like 1 dry day or 2 dry days versus this ratio like five or 6 wet days or unsettled days.
Yep.
It's really been bad. Joe, I did a double take when I looked at my weather station to look at the year's amount of rain that I have received in Putnam Valley. I have just over 19 inches of rain so far. Over 19 inches so far as we move into the first week of April. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Oh. Uh, all right. Well, you know what? Let's do some Briller Jeopardy, shall we?
Yep.
Okay.
Do it. Let's
And,
do it.
and we're going to continue on the Batman theme. All right. So, Joe, who played the Batman theme last night? The actors that played uh, the villains. Who played Clock King?
I thought about Clock King after we shut down last night. I was trying to think of some of the villains. Who played Clock King? I don't remember. In fact, I barely remember Clock King except for the name.
Let's see if anybody on the chat board
Is this
knows.
a famous? Was this a famous person?
Well, I know who he is. And his daughter used to be, it was the soap opera One Life to Live.
Uh huh.
And his daughter was one of the principal stars on that show. Um, Brandon Grablachoff has got it pretty much right off the bat. Yeah, Walter Slezak. Walter Slezak
Wow.
played Clock King. Um,
Ask a question before you ask the next Briller Jeopardy question here.
yes.
If does any of the people on the list that you have in front of you include Milton Berle?
Uh,
I think
yeah,
Milton Berle played a
yeah,
played a
yeah,
villain.
it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay.
Since you brought him up, name the character that he played.
Oh, I don't know. Lenny the Loser. I don't remember. I
That's
just
not. That's actually not a bad guess. You got the L. You got the L's right.
yeah.
It wasn't Lenny the Loser. It was not Lenny the Loser. and see if anybody on the chat board might want to take a guess at this. Um, that's right, Vincent Croce. Just going back to Walter Slezak, his daughter played Vicky, Erica Slezak, on One Life to Live.
Lenny the Loafer?
No, not Lenny the Loafer. Louis the Lilac, Rich Rothmansky. Correct. Lily the
Louis the
Lilac.
Lilac.
Yes. Okay. Who played Nora Clavicle?
Nora Clavicle?
Nora Clavicle.
Oh dear. Was that
I honestly didn't remember. I remember, when I saw the name, I remember the name, but I never would have guessed this in 100 years.
and I'm trying to also remember Mr. G.
That's closer than you think. Nora Clavicle. No, it wasn't Vivian Vance, Christinapedia, nor was it Lily Tomlin, Bella Lugosi. But Brandon Grablichoff got it. Barbara Rush. Barbara
Okay.
Rush. Zelda the Great.
Zelda the Great.
Zelda the Great. I'll give you a hint. It was one of those episodes where they had dual uh, villains. Zelda the Great was opposite with Egghead.
Wasn't there a woman with egghead named Olga?
Oh, maybe I'm getting that mixed with the Cossacks.
Yeah.
But this is Zelda the Great.
Zelda the Great. I don't know.
Well, Brandon Grablichoff again must spend a lot of time watching Bad Reds. and Baxter.
Huh.
Well, we mentioned last night that Art Carney played the Archer, so that was that. We also mentioned Shane or Shame, which was played by Cliff Robertson. So that's it. Those are
Am I imagining this, or did Batman? Did they have an episode where he went to England or Great Britain? I might be imagining that.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't ever remember them. That was not exactly a high budget show.
Yes.
I can't imagine that they did. I'm trying to think. Oh, there was one on there that I didn't get to. The minstrel.
The Minstrels.
The
Yeah.
minstrel.
Yeah.
Singular. The minstrel.
I don't know.
Played the minstrel.
Folks?
Anthony Sparacchio got it. Van Johnson.
Van Johnson. Wow. You know the thing I always chuckle at, the funniest thing, there was an episode, and the cliffhanger was that Robin was tied to a bell, the clapper of a bell. And at midnight, the clapper was going to go bang, bang, and pretty much bing, bing Robin as well. And Batman, just in the nick of time, found out and was now roaring along in the Batmobile to try to stop the bell from clanging. And he had Chief O'Hara with him in the Batmobile. And Chief O'Hara, and now as Batman is setting up this contraption to aim at the bell to stop the bell from ringing, Chief O'Hara asks Batman a question, and Batman turns to Chief O'Hara and says, "Please don't do this to me, Chief." And then he says, "You have to understand," and he goes into a long, convoluted explanation. Instead of tending to the job of trying to stop the bell, he's now explaining to Chief O'Hara what the device does and how it's going to stop by electromagnetic waves to stop the bell from ringing and stop the bell. He said, and he's going into this scientific BS jargon of what's going to happen, explaining to the chief instead of, and meanwhile, the bell, you could see the clappers going getting ready to clang Robin or whatever. But it was just so funny that he yelled at Chief O'Hara, and then he went into a long explanation as to exactly what he was trying to do. And Chief O'Hara's standing there like, Oh, well, oh, now that you've explained it, I understand it.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Point Pig says Adam West did make a UK road safety PSA, public service announcement, for those of you
Yeah.
who don't know what a PSA is. So
Somebody asked, "Where's my Joker?" I never even put it back to where it was
I
from.
was trying. I actually have some great audio of the Joker. That's perfect for this. But I have
You remember
I
the
I have
remember
to
the
figure out how to route it, and I didn't want to take a chance and screw up my audio or the audio tonight for the show.
remember the music they always used to have at the Joker? Dun 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 dun. Dun. How you
Your
doing?
your
How you doing,
sister
Cesar?
your sister says on the chat board, Joe, Lisa, she says the bee episode that I love was in England. What was the bee episode?
The B episode.
BEE.
I don't know. My sister is dating a guy who is like the ultimate Batman fanatic, and my sister gets all kinds of Batman items for him. I don't remember the B episode.
No, I don't either.
No,
I really don't. I always got to laugh though. So Tallulah Bankhead played the Black Widow,
right.
and she kidnapped uh what was the aunt's name now? Not Martha. What was the aunt that they lived with?
Oh,
Madge Blake's
Madge
played
Blake.
her. Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
Harriet.
And Harriet.
And Harriet. And
Madge Blake, by the way, was on Leave It to Beaver.
yes.
I think she played Lumpy's mother, or
Yes.
one of them. Yeah,
Well, the Black Widow kidnaps her and has her has her tied up, basically hanging from a rafter over a swimming pool filled with boiling oil.
I remember that.
And, you know, Tallulah Bankhead, she's sitting there, I think she's knitting or something on a rocking chair going back and forth. And you see Aunt Harriet's legs are just kind of going back and forth. I just wanted to, they came up with all these ways to try to kill people. They never killed anybody. Okay.
Right.
Even the villains, they never killed anybody, but they always came up with these ridiculously diabolical ways that they were going to kill Batman and Robin. Just did anybody ever just think, there's an easier way to get this done?
And in fact, I still remember at the age of what was it? What was it? About 11 years old, and every kid watched Wednesday and Thursday night Batman at 7:30 on Channel
Right.
7 ABC, and they always ended on Wednesday night with a cliffhanger. And there was one day, and the next day, that was the talk of the school. Everybody was trying to figure out how Batman was going to wriggle out of this one and he always did. And there was one episode where Catwoman had Batman and Robin on the roof of a building with two
Yes.
magnifying lenses aimed at them. But at the very beginning of the movie, at the very beginning of the episode, they had mentioned in the guise of Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, and tomorrow we're going to see a total eclipse over Gotham City. So, of course, when they were tied on the, underneath these two giant glasses and they were supposed to be burned by the sun, the next day I was all over the school telling, I know how they're going to get out of this. I know it's going to have something to do with the total eclipse. And the stupidity of the whole thing was that, there they are, and Batman tells Robin, with your legs, move the magnifying lens 12 degrees to the left. In other words, it's going to use the lens not to burn them, but to burn the chains.
Of course.
But I said later on, I said to myself, if they can move the magnifying glasses with their legs, why don't they just kick the magnifying glasses away?
But that would also leave them tied. So I guess he wanted to accomplish two things. Tom Contino, Commissioner Gordon, I believe, was played by Stafford Reap.
Who was on a number of episodes of Perry Mason.
Perry Mason, yes. Yes. I don't know if he was a murderer in any of the roles that he played. Stafford Reap was his name. And that was his actual name, by the way.
I love him because he, Whenever, just before he'd pick up the bat phone to call, he'd go into a soliloquy like, "There are many men out there, Chief, but I can only rely on one. I don't know who he is, but I do know that." For God's sake, pick the phone up and dial and get Batman or Alfred. How could they never ask
Who Vincent Croce, I think, was played by Alan Napier, I think his name was.
Yeah. But
See,
you ever
all
wonder
this, all
that, Joe?
this.
They never asked when Alfred picked up the phone, "Who the frig are you?" Oh
Number,
God.
please.
And did you ever
Alex,
notice also, did you ever notice that the Batmobile has license plates that say Gotham City 67 or whatever? And I'm
right,
saying, you can only get them by registering your car. I mean, so what did Batman put on the registration? The Batcave.
right, or just the fact that if Gotham City was supposed to be New York City,
Right,
because the neighboring state was New Guernsey, if you recall. If he had to register the car, that meant he had to go to a New York DMV. And
right.
what a religious experience the New York DMV is. I to this day, a woman that I had an experience with at the DMV, I hope that when her time comes, it's very painful. I'll just put it that way. She deliberately, she deliberately did. I'll just tell you the story real quick. So uh, I had bought a car for my daughter from my mechanic. So I had to go to DMV to register it. Okay. So I go to DMV and she says, the form for DMV for registration is so ridiculous and convoluted. Nobody can really understand it. I filled it out. The mechanic, I still filled it out. Um, she says, so I go to DMV, stand on a long line. I finally get to her window and she says, the seller needs to sign over here. And it's not signed. So I had to go back. I drove back home. It was like a 20, I had to go from Orem to Center Reach, which should take you like 5 minutes and it takes you half an hour. Um, got it to sign, went back, got on the line, got back to the same woman who then took the form, and then she said, "Oh, and you need to have this signed by him too." And I got so mad because by that time I had wasted like 4 or 5 hours. By that time, I got so angry. I said, um, is there anything else here before I go back out a second time? Is there anything else here on the form? And she said no. Okay. And I just looked at it. I took the form and I looked at her and I said, I just hope that someday somebody does to you what you did to me. When
Oh,
I came back, when I came back and went to another window, the woman there took the form and she said, "Oh, it's missing this. You need the signature over here." And I told her what happened. I told the woman what happened, and I pointed to the other woman. I said, "I've been there. This is the third time I've been here." Okay, and that woman over there, I asked her to tell me which ones were, what I needed filled out. So she did it on purpose, that she left it out. So the woman looked at, she turned to me and she said, "I'm going to turn my back right now." Okay, because I have to get something. I'll be right back. That was her signal to me, the way she said it. I forgot exactly what she said. It was like, "You go ahead and sign it, okay, and then I'll take it." And that's what happened. I wound up signing my mechanic's name to it and
yeah.
giving it to, but that man should be so lucky to have that kind of experience.
Isn't that amazing?
And we're at 99 likes, so can we get one more like, please, so Joe can ring
Yeah,
the bell and we
we
can
can
put it we can put an end to this?
we can get one more like from this short little thing that my sister posted. It was an episode of Batman where Catwoman says to Batman, "Batman, run away with me. I'll be good." And Batman says, "What about Robin?" And Catwoman says,
Kill him.
"Robin, we'll kill him."
And with that, we got 9 more likes to take us well over 100. You may ring the bell.
Ring the bell, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. So, Joe, the next time I talk to you, hopefully, I will be in Plattsburgh, New York, and speaking to you in the path of the total eclipse, and we'll see how everything goes from there.
All right. If you're Hopefully, we'll be together Sunday night if it works out. Otherwise, I'll solo. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description of this live stream. And if you purchase anything from the Tempest website, be it this or any of the other wonderful gadgets and gizmos that they have, and even smart weather fashion, use that coupon code winter2324. So this way you get your stuff and you also get
We'll get 10% off. We're gonna have We have 6 people in my SUV traveling north on 87. But before we get to 87, we're gonna have Mr. Sweeney. Yes, our dog, because we have to drop our dog off in Poughkeepsie, where a dog sitter is going to be watching him Sunday night and through the day on Monday. It'd be nice if we could go straight up to Plattsburgh, but we have to make a big detour to Poughkeepsie on the way to drop off Mr. Sweeney. And Mr. Sweeney just loves being in the car. My sister is on the chat board. I'm going to have the dog sit on your lap, or at least attempt to have him sit on your lap. And if he does anything to you, as he has done a couple of times in the car, it's your problem, not mine. Oh God.
many thanks to Paul Roman, Chuck Cardillo, Robert Lomnicki, and Miss Blue
Yes,
Ocean
Blue Ocean. Yes.
for hitting the tip jar tonight. So everybody have a great Friday and Saturday. We'll see you Sunday night at 7:35 p.m. 99.
Nighty night, folks.